Hello, everybody. This is Holly May from LionSong Process, and I want to talk a little bit today about the connection between play and safety for those of us who are walking some kind of an awakening, ascension path, or spiritual embodiment path, or becoming our true self path. All these different ways of framing and understanding the kind of collective awakening and evolution that we are working on together as humanity. And what does play have to do with this? And what does safety have to do with this? And how does safety and play connect to each other? So, one really big thing to understand is that we need to feel relatively safe in our bodies in the here and now in order to be able to relax enough to digest and process the experiences that we're having. And if we are not yet feeling safe enough, then the body will be put on pause. And that's essentially what trauma does, is it protects us and saves something for later. Because in the moment of our experiencing something overwhelming, we do not have the capacity to process it. That's the definition of trauma, is that it overwhelms our ability to take it in, to break it down, to metabolize it. So it becomes something that the body decides, the innate creative intelligence of the body decides, not now. This needs to be sort of, paused, put on pause. Let's freeze this and come back to it later. And the body does this in a number of ways, of course, through, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, all those by now relatively well-known mechanisms of the nervous system, whether going into hyperactivation, hyperarousal, which is more the up end of it, the up energy of fight and flight, or whether it goes down more into the shutdown of the dorsal vagal collapse. However the body makes a defense and freezes or dissociates or separates from the experience, it's a way of protecting us from something that we do not have the capacity at this moment to break down and digest and so on. So as long as we are not safe and our body system or our organic natural intelligence is determining this, that no, we are not safe enough to be able to relax and digest and work through this material. So fast forward many years later, here we are, and we're all carrying around this growing bag of trauma and things that we were not able to yet process. From the past, from our ancestry, from the collective, and it can feel some days like just this mounting burden of undigested psychological events and material that we still need to process and release and work through to be able to integrate it and to bring it back into a state of aliveness. So to thaw and allow this material to melt and therefore then join the stream of aliveness again. All of this requires a sufficient amount of safety. That is why we all work so hard with our nervous systems and our yoga and our EMDR and tapping and exercise and all the many things we may do to help the body learn to reset to a state of safety, so as to be in the bioneurological condition in which processing could even take place. So we need to be in a certain window of nervous system arousal in order to be digesting psychological material. Because if we're too amped up or we're too shut down, then we're in a version of freezing or delaying or dissociating. In other words, saving it for later. And when I say that, I just want to be extremely clear. Saving it for later is completely fine. If our innate organic intelligence says, we can't deal with this now, this is not something that can be processed and digested and integrated now, it needs to happen later, we would be very wise to honor the body's instinctual understanding of what it can and cannot process. And all of that said, we can also use that information to say, how might I slowly, gently, and with cooperation of the body ease into conditions in which safety would become a possibility. So that my nervous system could credibly unwind. Credibly meaning that I'm not forcing it or forcing myself to relax, but more like this truly is a setting in which it is safe to relax and to thaw, and something bad is not going to happen to me here and now in this moment, because this is a truly, genuinely safe moment. So, as we know, creating genuinely, truly safe conditions for healing work is a bit of a job in and of itself. But supposing we're at that point and we are reasonably safe now, we have safe outer conditions, relatively stable, and we're not in this moment being attacked or abused or in some way harmed. Let's take that as a given for this thought experiment. Let's say we're in that situation. We're all grown up now, we're away from the majority of the dangerous situations, and here we are, and we have potentially the opportunity to relax if only we could find a way to convince our scared, hurt nervous system that it is okay to relax. So we then begin the process of building this relationship with ourselves, befriending our inner protectors, listening to them, hearing their stories, and making sure that we are respectful and kind and considerate of their point of view, these parts of us who have kept us alive until now. Meaning we don't say, oh, bad trauma or bad anger or bad addiction or bad, why am I like this? Rather, we say, okay, if I'm like this, let's consider for a moment that this is necessary. And if it's not necessary now, great. But certainly it was necessary at some point in the past, otherwise we wouldn't have this behavior. We can trust ourselves that no matter how extreme the behavior looks, it is in place for one reason only, which is that it had some benefit for us in the past, and probably a trauma-related benefit. So it helped us freeze, it helped us dissociate, it helped us escape, it helped us deal with overwhelming emotions and therefore make them go away so no one knows what we really feel or whatever. So all of these things that we sometimes are accustomed to thinking of as symptoms or some kind of a problem are really not a problem. They are our own life force protecting us, preserving us, and saving us for later. So let's say here we are in a good enough moment and we're saying, I want to now heal this stuff. I want to make space. I want to get into a condition where I can begin to digest and process all of these many experiences which could not be dealt with in the moment in which they happened. But now I can. Now I'm available for it. Now I have some capacity. I have some skills. I have some safety. So that is how we get to the practice of building safety and understanding that safety is critical for being able to digest and process our psychological material, and that is the only way to get back into a flow and aliveness So safety is the key to getting back into the flow, into aliveness, into our life force being fully free to inhabit our whole being in a lovely, lush, relaxed, fun, playful, integrated way. So the connection to play here is really something important. So one is that, as you surely know, it is very difficult to connect with a spirit of play when we are in trauma mode, because play in that moment is not the most important thing to do when we are facing a kind of overwhelming danger, annihilating threat, whatever it is, if it's a threat of abandonment or attack or intrusion, violation, whatever it is, we're dealing with something that needs our full survival resources to focus on that. That is not the moment for play. And yet, play is a natural, important part of every mammal's development. And all little young mammals, like kittens and lion cubs and puppies and whatever else you're thinking of that's cute, baby koalas, whatever, little cute baby living things, they learn to become what they are, what is in their nature to become, through play, through rehearsing, through trying it out, through messing around, through having rough and tumble explorations, and through ideally a play with a loving, protective, present parent of some kind. And that is true of humans as well, is what I'm getting at. I'm reaching the limits of my knowledge of biology, so I will steer back towards humanity. Children, babies, obviously learn through play and through pretend and imagination and trying things on, trying identities and roles on, and pretending to be Superman or pretending to be an astronaut or pretending to be a ballerina. These are ways of interacting with certain roles and archetypes and functions. And if you think about now, it is still true to a certain extent, I find, that we play at something until we become the true real thing. So in the beginning, maybe we're playing a little bit, pretending, trying it on to be an artist or a songwriter or even a therapist or whatever. We're play acting until it becomes a truly embodied thing. So it is through the process of play that we develop and grow. And there's a lot of research about this, about how children need play in order to develop. So the same is still true of us. And we still need to play. We need the freedom to play, we need the space to play, we need the encouragement to play, and we need the safety to play. So it is in our own interest to make conditions safe for play so that our unfreezing life stream, which had been stuck at a certain point of development, whenever the overwhelming events happened and our life stream froze at that moment, that means we didn't complete whatever we were doing right then. So there's a kind of a need for being able to move forward and continue on with the tasks that we were facing at the time that we needed to freeze in order to survive. And when I say freeze, I don't only mean the, freeze like fight, flight freeze, but freezing our life, pausing our life stream for now to come back to it later. So as we come back to it later now, and we're in safe enough conditions to come back to it later, our job is to, very likely, to provide conditions to make it safe enough to play with whatever we were playing with at that time. So, for example, if we were playing with being a rebellious teenager when something happened to us that caused us to freeze our life stream, then the need to play with being a rebellious teenager as a role, as an archetype, as a point of view, to play with all the fun energies of that, and the anchor, the energy of rebellion, the perspective, all those fun and important pieces, we still have that need to play with those roles and those archetypes decades later, if that was a place where we experienced some pausing of our life stream. And another factor about play, so that's kind of about the spirit of play, the energy of play, which is about exploration, trying it on, finding out through trying it on, not knowing in advance exactly what's going to happen, but messing around a little bit and following our curiosity and feeling into it and discovering what we like, what we don't like. All of this is kind of the energy of play. And of course, there is the energy of play that is, lighthearted and funny and fun and kind of, it's a high vibrational, high frequency kind of energy that is very contagious and full of life energy. So if you think of it as like an ecosystem, it's a playful psyche is one where there's a lot of circulation of energy and it feels bright and it feels good and it feels alive. There's a lot of life and liveliness in play. And you can also say that a playful system is one in which life has permission to flow organically without being controlled and predicted and hammered into some predefined template. So play is improvisational, it's unscripted, it's completely surprising, it's unknown, and it's really fun for that reason. Another aspect of play is that it unites and connects people and bonds people. It naturally creates interpersonal bonds. So there's a reason that parents play with their children. They play peekaboo, right? Or they play hide and seek, or they play with toys or whatever else. It's enormously bonding to enter into the mode of play and to connect that way. And when you play with somebody, it is almost impossible, if conditions are safe enough. If you both get into a kind of a playful, spontaneous, connective mode like that, then a bond forms, a lovely, real, living, interpersonal bond of connection. So a lot of people may relate to the idea that, it's harder to make friends when you're older. And, maybe some of our early friendships and memories of being on the playground or even in high school or college, that some of those relationships were the best ones, and it's hard to recreate that now. And I believe that has to do with circumstances that support play and interaction and enough time to connect and to get to know each other's sense of humor, and the circumstances which make playful behavior being in place is part of why we bonded so deeply in those years. And why it's harder now, because we don't play, or it's harder to play. And those of us, or those of you who do play, like suppose you do different kinds of play now, even though you're an adult and you play with others, let's say you do improv or something like that, you are probably aware that it can get really fun and connective, like being a child again, laughing and messing around and being inventive and surprising, and it's enormously connective. And connection in turn creates safety. So, if you want to create safety within your own system, it behooves you to find ways to be playful in your own self-connecting interactions. So as you encounter different parts of yourself, little hurt parts or angry parts or the parts that are from the trauma protection system, whatever parts surface. Our self, our big, free, untarnished, shining like the sun self, is very playful by nature, and we may find a kind of playful, bonding, sweet kind of energy taking place between the eternal sunny self and these sort of childlike parts who are still looking to play and still need play to be able to develop and grow up and so on. So it's part of bonding intrapsychically and building a strong, secure attachment to your own inner self and to God and to, everything from the inner world, the inner wild, the inner kingdom inside of us will grow stronger in its connective relationships among the parts through play, through a playful attitude, and through making it safe to play. So when I say safe to play, I mean there can't be any kind of criticism, there can't be preconceived ideas about what's good and what's not, or what's a worthy pursuit or what's not. So we need to be able to be relaxed enough to kind of let things go where they want to go, follow our curiosity, find out, be experimental, and have a lightness about it and a acceptance and enjoyment and appreciation of where play leads us and the energy of it, to play just because it's fun, because it's bright, because it's expansive, because the energy feels wonderful. To play just for the sake of play. And that can be creative play. I mean, that is my favorite way to do it, is to, use all the different art forms and ways, literally putting on a play, making up a play, doing scenes, all of that stuff is kind of in the improv and theater realm, but it can also be playful approaches to painting and ways of interacting with ourselves, each other, whatever. So it's bonding internally, and it is also bonding externally. So people who play together, somehow, some way, they find a way to feel safe enough to play together, especially creatively, but really in any way that is non-scripted, non-directed, but emerging spontaneously out of the shared field of their merging creativity or their interacting creativity. People who find a way to play together like that, it builds relationship. So that's why, just as a side note, play is encouraged in, for example, working groups or creative collaborators or in family therapy, right? Wherever we can, to bring in more spirit of play, because it strengthens bonds of connection, which in and of itself builds more safety. So we know through the wonderful work of Stephen Porges and Deb Dana, people like that, who have been bringing forth the information about polyvagal perspectives, which have emphasized the need for co-regulation and attunement and in being in resonance with each other at the nervous system level, that is necessary to feel safe. So essentially we need each other. We need to all be doing it together. Like, we need to all be in the safe energy zone and creating safety together for ourselves, for each other, to co-create it and to both receive it and to beam it out to others is a shared project. So the more I am safe, the more you are safe, the more you are safe, the more I am safe. And this is being communicated at subconscious levels through the nervous system. So it's this very self-reinforcing thing. So the more we play, the safer we feel, the more we play, and on in that direction. So safety and play are both necessary to help us work through our trauma material and all of the undigested things that were put on pause and saved for later. And if now is the time when we want to tackle some of that material a little bit at a time, we can use play and creative arts, of course, to relate to that material, to connect to it, to process it through the psyche, to even have fun while we deal with our shadows and our difficult things. If we build a loving, playful relationship with our own material, it makes the process much more fun. It turns it into play. So that's something to keep in mind. And just overall making this connection that we can't afford to overlook the need for play. It's not some frivolous side thing or luxury. It's actually at the heart and core of human hearts and nature. We need it to develop. We need it to connect with each other and with ourselves. So I hope that what I've said today has sparked some thoughts for you to take further into your own process, whether it's that you like what I'm saying or you don't like what I'm saying. Either way, I know that can be a trailhead for you to follow back to your truth and your understanding and perspective. Thanks so much for listening. If you want to learn more about how I approach play and healing and the what and the why, I have a website, lionsongprocess.com. And there are many suggested play prompts, which are ways of doing art projects or connecting with certain topics that might appeal to you. So thank you so much for listening, and I send you lots of love today, whoever you are, wherever you are. I feel confident that you can do this, and thank you for your interest in doing it, to help us all heal and move forward together as a whole humanity. Thanks a lot.